Over 2 years ago, we packed up our home and set off on an unforgettable adventure with our 2 girls. We weren't sure where this full-time travel lifestyle would take us, or if we would last for more than a few months. So we started off slow and easy and moved into a caravan to travel Australia for a little while. 4 months later, we were absolutely loving it and we didn't want it to end, so we bought our own caravan and travelled all the way around the country. But that's not where our story ended. We planned to spend part of the year living in our tiny home on wheels and the other part hopping from country to country, place to place, to take advantage of this very short time we have where our kids actually want to be with us 24/7. We've now taken our girls to Japan, England, France, Switzerland, Italy, Monaco and Denmark, marking up 8 countries they've explored so far, including their home country, Australia. Soon we'll be adding to that number as we prepare to set off on a 6-month adventure to places like New Zealand, Estonia and Croatia. But before we get into the overseas content, I wanted to make a video about the question we are asked the most, and that is, how do you travel so much? So in today's video, I'm going to go over everything from our budget, our weekly spendings, and how we make enough money to travel full time. I want to mention briefly that the figures in this video are purely for our needs and wants, and it is in no way portraying that this is the amount of money you're going to need if you want to travel full time with your family. You might travel much cheaper than us, or even much more than us, and that's okay too. Just know that I'm creating this video to help people to know how much they could spend if they were to travel like us, and I hope that by being honest about our spendings and our income, that will help too. So if we haven't met yet, hi, my name's Samantha, and my little family consists of Tom, my husband, and then our 2 little girls, Mila and Callie. Tom and I have visited 44 countries in the last 10 years, and now we've gifted our love of travel and adventure onto our girls. We've been traveling full time since February 2023 and spent a large chunk of that living in our custom-built caravan from Wild Trail. Obviously, our overseas travel is going to be different to our caravanning in Australia budget, so we'll pretty much just be covering the caravanning costs here. So first, let's cover the upfront costs. We picked up this caravan in July 2023 after it was custom built by the amazing team at Wild Trail in Victoria. It's a 2023 Wild Trail El Questro 22.6 foot caravan. We spent just under $90,000 on it, and we spent an extra $3,300 on a custom made Annex from Extend Outdoors on the Sunshine Coast. We then had to upgrade our car to make sure we could tow this caravan, so we went with a 2021 Isuzu MU-X, which included the pull-out mirrors and the electric brakes for the caravan, and that came to $62,000. We then had to upgrade the GVM for $5,000, and eventually we upgraded our tyres to be the all-terrain, and we also got some new rims for $3,500 as well. So that's a total of $163,000 for upfront costs, and that doesn't include the things like insurance and registration for the caravan and car, and that was around $4,500 as well. Probably the most interesting thing to know is the ongoing costs and how much we spend on those. So we allow ourselves $1,800 every week. This covers everything from fuel to food to caravan parks and extra activities. For fuel, we generally spend around $200 on diesel every week. We don't actually use that much fuel because we only travel weekly, which is like a 2 to 3 hour drive every week, so not much is used. Costs for other travelers will depend on how far and how often you want to move, and the fuel will definitely add up to your weekly costs if you're moving a lot. We spend anywhere from $300 to $800 on caravan parks every single week. I'd say an average cost for us would be around $450, but inside school holidays and if you're at a premium park, it's much closer to the $800 mark. We never free camp or go off grid, and that is because Tom and I actually did it a lot before kids, so we've kind of filled up our cup for that for now, and also because Tom still works during the weekdays, so we need a space that's consistent for him so we can do this continuously. But if you're happy to stay off grid, you will save so much money on accommodation. Each week we'll spend around $350 to $450 on groceries, and we'll usually shop at Woolworths, and then a further $400 on eating out, so like cafes, restaurants and things like that. So our weekly food budget is around $800. This is very high to what some families would budget, and we know that we could make this cheaper, but we really enjoy taking our girls to cafes and restaurants and trying new food in the places that we go. So I can't imagine this part of our budget getting smaller anytime soon. We have a budget of $700 for spending each week, but that does include our caravan park stays. So depending on how much we spend at the caravan park that week, that will depend how much money we've got left over for spending. That will include any of our fun activities we want to do, chemist supplies that we need to buy, maybe a new t-shirt or something. All of that is covered in our spendings. So I prefer not to spend too much money at the caravan parks, but I also like to splurge sometimes and stay at a really nice place. Occasionally we'll rent an e-bike or something in the town that we're staying, or if there's something unique to do, we'll try and do that. But those sort of activities are never usually too expensive. We'll mostly just do free activities, which are like hiking, beaches, playgrounds, things like that. There's always so much to do outside that you don't have to spend much money on. We've also got a bunch of random bills that come out of that weekly budget of $1,800 as well, but they come out at different times in the month. So we allocate $250 out of our weekly budget for these bills. We spend $140 each on our phone bills for Telstra every month. We also have Starlink, and that was a $400 upfront cost, and then it's $200 of an ongoing monthly fee. We barely use our Starlink, but for the moments that we do use it, we're very grateful to have it. We also have a little Telstra modem that has our Wi-Fi on it that travels with us, and that's $135 a month. And we also have a storage container of all of our stuff back home, and that's $220 per month. Honestly, we've only got this storage container back at home because we were concerned we would bail on our full-time travel plan and we'd move back home after a few months. We're now over 2 years traveling, and I don't see us using that storage container anytime soon. And I'm slightly concerned that when we get in there, everything's gonna be like moldy and stinky, and we'll just throw it out anyway, and that would be a lot of wasted money. And then we also have things like Netflix, Apple TV, subscriptions and apps on our phones, and that will maybe be around $240 a month. We also have some other really big expenses like our house payments and our health insurance, but I won't add these figures in because they're not really relevant to caravanning or traveling. We removed our washing machine out of our caravan here, and that's because I prefer to use the laundry facilities at the caravan parks. So I'll usually budget around $50 for doing laundry each week, and that includes roughly 2 or 3 washes and dries. Our caravan is meant to be serviced every 10,000 kilometers, and it would cost roughly $450, but we were so slack on our big lap of Australia, we didn't realize we had to do it every 10,000 kilometers because the last person we saw said to do it once a year. We just assumed that was kind of for everyone, but I think if you're a full-time caravaner, you should definitely get it done every 10,000 kilometers, because when we had ours serviced after a year of traveling full-time, the guy said it was the worst he had ever seen after a big lap. I'm gonna read this one because I can never remember what it is, but it was our backing plates, hubs, bearings, and suspension bushes that all needed replacing. And then we also had to re-silicone our H molds on the exterior of the caravan because they were starting to peel back, and with a timber frame, we didn't want any risks of leaks. So that whole thing cost us $3,500. So I definitely recommend getting a service more frequently than we did. So with all of that said, we spend around $7,000 per month, and that's not including our big yearly bills like health insurance, car and caravan registration and insurance, council rates, and house payments, which can all add up to be about $10,000. Again, I just want to say that every family is different, and our costs will vary to others depending on lifestyle and budget. And that gets us to budgeting and how to save some money. Although by now you might not want to take that advice from me. A really good way for me to save money would be to stop traveling. My number one tip is to shop weekly. The more you visit the stores, the more money you will spend. Instead of frequently visiting Woolies, set one day in your week to do a big grocery haul. Try to bulk prep the food that you like if you have the freezer space, and avoid really expensive meats and fresh produce. The blueberry prices at the moment are insane. You could save a lot of money by going to different grocery stores. Aldi, you usually save a lot of money, and then you could also try and find some fresh local produce at farmers markets. Number 2 is move less. If you travel slower and drive shorter distances, you'll save money on fuel every week. Number 3 is enjoy free activities. Learn to love beaches, playgrounds, and walks for free entertainment. And number 4 is off-grid equals close to free accommodation. Of course, you have a huge upfront cost of the actual caravan, and it sometimes costs a little bit to stay on off-grid sites, but the more you're willing to stay off-grid, the more money you'll save on caravan parks. You can find some really good off-grid sites on HipCamp or WikiCamps. And now it's time to finally answer the most asked question: how we afford to travel full-time. For the past 10 years, Tom and I have actually worked for ourselves, running and growing multiple businesses over that time. In 2020, Tom started his current business that he is still doing now, and that allows him to work wherever we go. A lot of people ask me, what does Tom actually do? And honestly, sometimes I don't even know. It changes a little bit depending on trends, marketing, and the year. But basically, he runs a marketing agency that helps other people to get more sales. In 2022, our second daughter, Callie, was born, born, and this is when he stopped working a normal full-time shift and tried cutting his work hours down to just a couple a day. He has a few employees that allows him to do this, and that means we get to spend most of our day together as a family. Tom will generally work around 2 hours in the early morning and then 2 to 3 hours over lunchtime, so we have all mid-morning and all afternoon to go out exploring. Obviously, this amount of time he works will depend on whether he's got videos to record, things to fix in the business, or some new things to build. So for some of the year, he might be with us heaps and have a lot of time to spend with us, and then other parts of the year he might be really busy and he might be closer to working those full-time hours again. We call these the work seasons, and honestly we get multiple seasons throughout the year, so there's busy seasons, not busy seasons, constantly changing. But generally we can spend a lot of time together as a family, and we just absolutely love it. For us, having our children really put into perspective what really matters, and that is time together, to make memories and to have a close, nurturing bond with our kids. We know that this is something that can be really hard for a lot of families due to work commitments and income strain, which is why we are so grateful that we get to do it. It's something that we'll never take for granted, and I especially feel very blessed that I was able to sell my business back in 2022 and focus on just being a mum while Tom handles the finances. So for our weekly income, we pay ourselves the $1,800, and then if we need any more for like big expenses of traveling, like when we go flying overseas, we'll just take more out of the business account as we need it. Another topic I see pop up a lot is whether you need to work to be able to travel full time. And my answer to that would be no, but if you go traveling with a set amount of money and you don't have a plan to make more, you're obviously going to run out eventually. So if you do want to travel full time for more than just a couple years, you're going to probably either need to work remotely, work online, start a business, which is not as easy as you think, or maybe even stay somewhere months at a time to work seasonally. And now for some final thoughts. Would you do it all again? Definitely yes. In my opinion, the amount of money that we've spent over the past few years to be able to create these amazing memories as a family is always going to be worth it. Of course, we could still have just a typical house and Tom could work the same amount of hours, but honestly, traveling keeps these kids so entertained, and I seriously find parenting so much easier while we're traveling. There's always fun things to do and see, and the kids just love it, and I just feel so grateful that we get to show them the world. Is it cheaper than living in a house? Honestly, the way that we travel, it can kind of be quite similar to renting a house, because we're still paying around $500 per week on Caravan parks, and then we've also got things like our house payments and stuff because my family are still renting our house back on the coast. Of course, again, if you're staying off grid or willing to stay in free camps, you would be saving so much money on weekly accommodation, but you also have to remember the amount of money that you had to put into the caravan and your car setup before you could even start traveling. And would we do it differently? So far, I wouldn't change a thing. We have just loved living in a caravan for the past 2 years, and the fact that we can go traveling overseas in Airbnbs and still come home to our cozy little home and also moves is pretty cool. We only hope that we can keep doing this for as long as we all want to. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's helped you imagine just how much it could cost someone to travel Australia full time. But again, remember, these are just our costs and you don't have to freak out if they're really high. You can just pick and choose little things that you might be spending similar to us. If you have any questions, hit them down below in the comments and I'll reply to you there. And if you want to see what we get up to next as we prepare to set off on our 6-month adventure, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.